Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm James.
And welcome to the Cornwall Property Podcast, where every week we bring you the latest news, hot topics and guidance around the Cornwall property market.
Stay tuned to be informed, inspired and to have any of your property related questions answered by trusted local property professionals.
Welcome back.
Here we are.
This is episode 32 of the Cornwall Property Podcast. I'm Dan.
I'm James.
And we are here to inform, educate, inspire you guys to get involved with property with a particular focus on the Cornwall property market. We know there's big issues in Cornwall with the housing crisis, and we want to help do a little bit to tackle that and bring some more properties to the market and get you guys involved with property investing. So that is why we are here.
Absolutely, and being involved with us. This is the bit where you get involved with us and give us your lovely questions that hopefully Dan and I can give some value to. And how do we do this? You can go to the cornwallpropertypodcast.com, scroll down to the very bottom of the page there. You can send your questions in to us that way. You can reach us via email, which is hello@cornwallpropertypodcast.com, or you can also reach us on our social media platforms such as Facebook, where many of you do. But without further ado, we will start with our first question, which is from lovely Tom. Here we go. Hey guys, hope you're both well. We certainly are. Loving your content. Please keep it coming. Thank you for that, Tom. I've been chatting to my stepdad and he thinks the property market will go down or even crash at some point. He's advised me not to buy a residential property right now, but I'm still thinking I should because I prefer to pay a higher price to buy and pay a mortgage rather than rent. What I'm debating is doing up one of my buy-to-let properties and selling it, then sitting on the cash for the future until the market goes down and I can buy a cheaper property. I'm weighing up the pros and cons in my head of either having regular money coming in from the buy-to-let as a holiday let or selling when the market is high. Was just wondering what your thoughts are on the matter. Good question, Tom.
A very interesting question. So, personally, don't sell unless you have to. That's kind of my motto. I'm not a massive fan of selling assets if I can help it, but if you need the money, then do. But your dad's right. There is going to be a crash. But I don't believe your dad's right in telling you to sit and wait for the crash, because no one knows when this crash is going to happen. You could be sat there waiting for a crash for years, where during that time, and when the crash happens, it might be a 10% crash, a 15% crash. But if you kept the property now, and over the next 2 years, it goes up by 6% a year perhaps, which is low considering what's been happening recently, you get two years of consistent 6% growth, or maybe you get another 10% growth. Or if you get growth for the next 2 years, say worst case it was like 5% growth for the next 2 years. You've got 10% growth. Then we hit a crash. Crashes between 10%, 15% maybe. Well, it's not going to hit you that hard, is it? Because you've already built up those. So the one comment I always love and I always go back to is the best time to buy or to invest in property was yesterday. The best time to buy, or unless you're in 2008 and you're at the peak of the crash. But the idea is you don't sit around and wait. You cannot time this crash, Tom. And that if you've got, by the sounds of it, you've got one buy-to-let property, you're looking to buy your residential property. This residential property then is not going to be something you're going to buy and sell after a year, 2 years. So that shouldn't really be affected too much by this crash, because if you're aiming to buy now and hold for the long term, then you're not going to lose. We bang this drum so much in property. You need to look at property as a long-term game, as a safer kind of investment vehicle. Absolutely. If you're looking for a quick fix in this sort of market, it's far too risky. That's why we don't flip and sell and things like that, because it's too risky, I feel. You just can't always time the market. But where we're at, there is going to be a crash. There always is. 18-year property cycle. We've been going over that for ever since we started the podcast now. There is a repeat pattern to the property market. It's been going on for decades. So look that up. Try and look at the cycle. We predicted that, and it was shared that we reckon the crash, if it's going to happen, it's going to be looking around 2026 to 2029, with the way the market's going. There'll be some dips, there'll be some plateaus, but the big recession-y sort of crashes, that's when it's predicted to happen, if you're looking at the market data over history. But personally, Tom, your question, do you think I should sell my buy-to-let? Not if you don't have to. Do not sell it if you do not have to. And if you're only selling it because you think there's going to be a crash, well, I suppose the question comes, well, how long have you held this buy-to-let property? Because if you bought it recently and there's a crash, okay, I can imagine you've got a little bit of a hit there because you bought it for, say it was an easy number of 100 grand and you have a little crash and it's only worth 90,000, then appreciate it's going to be a hit. But if you bought this property 2, 3, 4 years ago, then you've got a nice bit of equity you would have built up in this property. So even if there was a little crash, you wouldn't lose from the purchase price. So my idea, I would advise you is to you've said here, holiday let it. If you want to holiday let it, that's your decision. Fine, no worries. Buy to let it with the family. I would personally chuck a family in there, get them in there safe, happy, paying the mortgage. As long as you're making £200-300 a month, which is the general kind of numbers you can expect from a buy to let, then brilliant. It's washing its face. It's making you a little bit of income, and over the time you're going to hold the buy to let. You're going to be making equity as well. It's going to be going up in value. Buying a residential property, if you want your residential property now and the right one's there, fantastic. Get in there, buy it. Don't be afraid. If you're going to be holding that property for the long term, buy it now, and don't be afraid. But I do understand your stepdad's. But he cares. They love you. They don't want you to lose money. They don't want you to do something wrong, really. That's basically it. And he's just worried by it, and I completely get that. And then, I suppose I look at it. My family were exactly the same. As property investors ourselves, we like to think we know the market a little bit better, and we have a little bit more confidence in what we're doing, and the way things are going. Hence why we look at the data, look at the news, keep our fingers on the pulse, because it's so important. But if I had followed my parents' advice, my mother's advice, for example, bless her, she's quite risk adverse, and she is not so familiar with property as such, with investing side. She would have never wanted me to leave my day job and go into property, or to buy property and to risk my own home and so, because it's risky. They care, they love you, they don't want things to happen. So I completely appreciate why your stepdad's saying it, and fearful of you. But again, you just need to look at the pros and cons. Get your buy to let cash flowing you. As long as you don't need to sell it anytime soon, you should be absolutely fine. Get yourself a residential. As long as you're not planning to sell it in the next couple of years, you're trying to sit there, hold it, I don't think you should fear so much. What are your thoughts?
I think that's a really good answer there, Dan, as always. And it's a difficult one, Tom, especially when family are involved. You do have that emotional attachment, and I can certainly identify with what Dan said. With my family, they've probably thought I've been a bit kind of gung-ho with stuff that I've done, but I have no regrets on that. They've, served me very, very well. And you just can't get involved with family because they love you, they care, as Dan says, and they're going to always, they want what they think. That's the key few words of what they think is best for you. But it doesn't necessarily mean that is what is best for Tom. And again, as Dan says, I would not sell that property, unless you absolutely have to. And something that hasn't been mentioned just yet, and it's quite an important one. You've been, discussing about the money that you're going to lose out. That if you wait and the market's going to drop. Okay, well, let's say if you sell it now, there's a little something you're going to have to pay there, isn't it? Which is capital gains tax. You've sold something, so you're going to have to pay. I don't know how long you've owned that property there for, Tom, but let's just say, you've made 100 grand on that property in 10 years. Say you've had it for a long time, you're still going to have to pay, quite a bit of capital gains tax there, aren't you? And if you work out what you're going to lose through capital gains tax, obviously we're not accountants, we're not financial advisors, but find out from your accountant exactly how much you're going to have to pay. You might find that would be much more than the downturn of the market if you didn't sell. So think about that. But well done you for bringing it to somewhere like, a property podcast. Just happens to be the Cornwall Property Podcast, a really exciting one. And get to experience property developers' opinion on it, and ask other property developers as well. But rule of thumb here, don't go asking your family, because they'll probably just tell you what you don't want to hear, and they only care for you, and they're going to be risk averse because they want what's best for you. And don't spend your money. Get as much back as you can, but that isn't always what's right. So definitely. Well done, Tom.
Hope that helps, Tom, and please let us know what you do. I'm sure other listeners will be interested to hear. So last question then today is from Peter from Scythians, and Peter has said, I'm hoping to take a derelict cottage in Porthleven where I live and bring it back to the Cornish locals. I'm allowing 6 months for the project, but I'm going to be refinancing afterwards. Some tell me that this is achieved in 2 weeks. Is it possible, and is it wise to have to say maybe 7 months instead for the whole project, where I have to refinance the money back out at the end? So, interesting one. Very topical for us as well.
Yes, very much so, Peter. And a good question. Not all developers kind of know the way the refinance works, because they might have not been through it. But I can certainly vouch for Dan and I. We've recently done some refinancing and on a big development that we've been working on for the past year. And the refinance, what's the politest way to put it down? It's not been a smooth transition, has it? It's been very, very turbulent and huge delays. You can be a really good property developer where you've got a good build team, they're working really, really well, but right at the end, where you are coming to refinance, you've got professionals coming in, solicitors, whoever it might be, you are at the mercy of them. And I can only talk about our experience, but generally, as a rule of thumb, I would probably say that, if you've got a good lender and it is just a refinance on the property, so you've finished, it's just the case of a valuation, you've got a good solicitor behind you, it should probably take you about a month. It is a good rule of thumb. Let's just say for Dan and I, it's taken us about 2.5 months to fully get this refinance, to actually get the money in the bank.
From valuation to cash in the bank.
Exactly, from valuation. And that is a long period of time. And, we allowed sort of like a whole year for the development, really. And that was with the refinance, but it's taken us over by 2.5 months. So not only have we had to, pay interest on that, we were actually also buying, another property as well. So we had to kind of delay that transition, and we were at risk of losing it. So I definitely would kind of scrap 2 weeks off the mark, and to play it safe and be contingent, I would say allow a minimum of 2 months for a refinance. That is from the point the valuer comes in to value the property to the point where the actual money from the refinance lands in your bank. So in this case, if you think your project is going to be 6 months for the development, I would definitely allow, all in all, a minimum of 8 months, just so you know where your money is going to be at that time, because like I say, you're at the mercy of the lenders. And depending what position you're in our experience, if you've got, loads of track record behind you, you've got a big portfolio, then you can cherry pick the lenders you want to. Like us, we've got a good broker. But one thing that we've learned is that ask the broker, what are the turnaround times of your other refinances you've got with other clients? Because, hey, we really need to get this over the line very, very quickly. Who should we choose? And it might mean that you have to spend a little bit more on the interest rate, but in how much it's going to cost you in interest if you're borrowing from investors, etc., it completely outweighs the stress and everything else, the aggro that goes with it. So ask your broker. If you haven't got a broker, I'd highly recommend getting one, because they can guide you through, because they've got the experience with the lenders that they're dealing with at that point in time. Because you might find one lender is really, really quick at the moment, but next year they might be just stacked with loads of refinances and they're just very, very slow. So take that into consideration. But in answer to your question, I would definitely allow 2 months for the refinance there.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and mainly because I'd always go worst case. What's the worst case that can happen? Because if you always plan to worst case, Peter, you can't be disappointed when it doesn't come off. Because if that was, this has only taken 4 weeks, fantastic. That's a month of interest I haven't got to worry about, and happy days.
Yeah.
So, and again, the build might go over slightly. So if you think it's going to be a 6-month build, maybe you budget for a 7-month build, and then you budget for an additional 2 months. So maybe you have to just schedule in 9 months just to cover your backside and be safe. But that's the way I'd look at it for sure.
Absolutely. There's nothing worse having a property that is looking beautiful, really high standard, and it's empty, and you haven't managed to get tenants in before the refinances. Yeah, just allow plenty of time. And a good way to do that is probably start booking in the valuation, when you're a couple of weeks kind of from finishing, because it makes accountability to yourself to get that over the line, and then you can not waste any time, just get it refinanced. So sure. Thank you for that.
Definitely. Well, guys, I hope that's helped. Tom, Peter, thank you ever so much for getting in touch, and let us know how it goes with your projects and your purchasing of your residential, Tom. And yeah, if you want to get in touch, you can do exactly as these guys have done, and James will share how you do that.
Absolutely. On the great World Wide Web, you can go to cornwallpropertypodcast.com, scroll down to the bottom of the front page there, and you can send a message into us that way. You can easily get in touch with us on email, hello@cornwallpropertypodcast.com, and like many of you do, go onto our social media platforms such as Facebook and simply reach out, drop us a message, and we will always get back to you. And we love hearing from you. It's what makes the show possible. So thank you.
Thank you ever so much. So we have got some exciting different podcasts planned for you over the coming months. We are trying to connect with a few local property professionals. We've got some agents coming in, some brokers, some consultants in terms of different professions or different areas of property. If there's anyone in particular you would like to hear from or get their, but not necessarily questions for James and I, but you maybe have a certain area you want to know about surveying or planning or anything like that, please do let us know, and we will connect you, and we'll see if we can get some people on there. Or if you'd like to come on the podcast because you're a property professional in Cornwall, please do let us know, and we are happy to try and connect locals, investors, property enthusiasts with local property professionals, because look, we want to help as much as we possibly can. So we have got a couple of very exciting guests that we are looking forward to bring on the podcast. Won't give away too much now, but hopefully over the next few podcast episodes, you will have some additional bonuses from not just only James and I, but some of our guests that we have planned in. So something to look forward to. But
can't wait for that. It's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be wicked. So,
and you get a break from Dan and James.
Yes, we won't have to pull the socks off you any longer. So, guys, again, thank you ever so much for listening. That is a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
See you next time.